Hello, and welcome back to the Mustang Blueprint. I'm going to be your host today. I'm Steely Stockman, and I'm here with...
Logan Erdman.
All right, so first off, just tell us about yourself. Just who is Logan?
Yeah, small town, Fulda, Minnesota. It's about 40 minutes away from here. We're a very big farming community, so that's something that's been very big lately. A lot of my friends are still in the fields now, still getting out corn and stuff. And yeah, we're small community, but a big community together.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you are here for our entrepreneurship kind of segment here. And so to you, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur?
I would say kind of making your dreams become true. Kind of your dreams becoming reality. Like for me, I'm really huge into fishing. I've been into fishing since I can't even remember. I think I was 2 years old, and they have pictures. My mom and dad have pictures of me sitting in a stroller with a fishing pole. So it's been a big thing for me my whole life, and kind of being able to put that into finding something that you like to do and putting that out there into making your own business. It's really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So our viewers, let's let them know. So tell us about your business. Give us kind of a timeline when all this started, when it happened.
Yeah, so last year I was in one of George Taylor's classes, and we had to come up with a business, and I couldn't figure out a name for it. I knew I wanted to make my own lures and stuff and sell them, and we were sitting down, and it was, I don't even remember, I think it was like early winter, and we came up with tall grass tackle, and then from there, we reached out to other businesses like Runnings. I'm trying to think what other ones. We had little small like mom and pop shops. We tried to get into Runnings. Just wasn't the right time. And then now this year, I'm hoping to get into a couple more smaller stores, and then hopefully build up enough to start getting to those bigger retail locations.
I'm excited to see that in Walmart. I can't wait. Seriously, this is super cool. I know, I love fishing too. I guess I just want to know what has been your favorite fishing experience? How did you get to love fishing so much?
Yeah, so big thing was, they're basically our third grandparents. Their name is Brad and Marcia, and they have a cabin up north by kind of Hackensack Walker. And so we'll go up there every year. And we've been doing that since I can't even remember when we started going. And they were the ones who really pushed me to kind of do it. I remember Brad coming up to me and going, they had these in fisherman videos is what they were called. And it would be of people actively doing research or something on a specific type of fish and how to catch them or which way is proven to be best. And one of them was making your own lures from a company that was based out of Iowa. And he was like, hey, you should really, really take a look at this. And I watched the video. I had to beg my dad to do it because, it's lead, what we're doing. So it's not necessarily the safest thing if you don't have your face mask, your eyewear, gloves. You don't want any of that really near your body. But so I started that when I was about 10, and I've been doing that since.
My gosh.
Yep.
You're just a little businessman from the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
Wow.
I know.
I guess something like this, it's you're making a product.
Yep.
So where do you want to, I know you want to get into these big places. So right now you're still just making them yourself.
Yep, correct.
Are you trying to get them manufactured? How would you go about that? How do you get your materials? Just kind of the bare bones of your business.
Yeah, so what I would really want to do, I want to really stay in the United States. I don't really want to outsource that much. Yes, it makes it cheaper, but I feel like also we've done things where we look at different kind of consumer kind of reports and stuff, how they'll do that. And I'm not saying it's definitely going to sell if you say made in Minnesota, but it really goes, oh, well, this is made in America. This is made in Minnesota. That's kind of unique to me in my area, really any area in Minnesota. And so really my goal is if we get big enough to kind of have my own shop, and then from there have people come in and work with me doing it. So I'll still be doing the work. I want to stay with that, saying I still hand pour, I still do all of this. And yeah, so kind of keep it smaller, just not huge.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
I feel like, you see stuff like that made in the USA, made like that. You're like, oh, that's cool. Like, working hard, that kind of thing. I know we were talking about this before we went on air, Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like a lot of us know about that show. I know, like, I grew up watching it, like all those people on there, right?
Yep.
Did you ever, like, think of a pitch or, like, to get more money? Or, like, have you ever thought about that?
I have. I did a pitch competition last year, and I won, and it was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't think I did that well. And then I just, throughout the lunchtime, they were like, oh, hey, that was a really nice pitch. And I was like, oh, thank you. And they would just kind of keep asking me more and if I would want to do more competitions. And then from there, I got to go up to the cities to do more networking with other people in just different industries. I had someone come up in one of my booths, so like kind of like a trade show, you know. Mm-hmm. So we had that set up. I had all my jigs set up, everything just about me. And people would come up, ask about it, how much they're selling for and everything. And they go, hey, you should talk to this guy named Matt from Omnia Fishing, which is a huge fishing company in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of like a tackle warehouse is what they call it. So it's not tackle warehouse, but it's similar, but they add more stuff to it. Like they'll put mapping out, they'll do all that kind of stuff. So through there, just people would come up to me randomly and be like, oh, hey, yeah, you know, my neighbor, he really likes fishing. And I was like, oh, yeah, who's your neighbor? And then they were like, oh, have you ever heard of this? I'm like, yeah, I've heard of that. So yeah, kind of cool little small world, very small world.
Yeah, like full circle moments.
Yes.
That's super cool. I mean, I guess, like, I feel like a lot of people have different ideas of things they want to do, kind of like what you did, but you're actually making it happen.
Yeah.
So, what went into creating your pitch? Like, what kind of things did you kind of figure out that people wanted to hear or know about your
a lot of thinking through it. It took me, I don't even know how many class periods and how many, like, just later nights just kind of like thinking, how could I make this sound better? Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is just kind of really putting in the work there. You need to be for you. You don't want to change who you are. You want to make sure during your pitch that it is you giving the pitch, not someone behind a mask who has to act like someone else. And who I really learned that from was, I was watching this video. There's this fisherman called Gerald Swindle, and he's been fishing for about 23 years, like professionally, doing all that stuff. I know, kind of nerdy stuff there, but
yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, he did a seminar, and he just said, do not change who you are for it. Like for me, when I would do my little Instagram shorts, I had videos where I was on a roof and I was making videos, and like, just because I'm just kind of dumb that way. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, that's kind of funny to me. So like, you do that. You just don't change who you are. Make sure you're showing yourself while you're doing it. Yeah. If that makes sense at all.
No, definitely. I feel like you want to like shape like how you saw someone else get it. I mean, do what they did, but you gotta be true to yourself. And I feel like already from just speaking to you, you've talked a lot about your supporters. You talked about your third grandparents, or so I think that makes you who you are too. And if you just kind of want to speak on that, who's been there with you, obviously you haven't done this alone.
Yeah, my dad also, and my mom, they both have really pushed me. When I was setting up a meeting with the run-ins, I was super nervous. I was like, I don't know what to do. I can't figure this out. Because when I did it, I had such a big mindset of, I need to compete with all these big corporations. I need to do it with, like, for example, there's Rapala and Strike King, kind of like fishing lure companies, right? Mm-hmm. But they are very well-established companies that are making millions and millions of dollars. And you look at their lineup of stuff and you're like, oh, geez, how is someone going to buy my stuff? So I started out by having, like, I think I had 14 different kind of like crankbait bodies, which is a different type of fishing lure. And then I think I had 10 or 12 different jig styles with different colors. And I was looking at it, I go, I cannot afford this. Like, I cannot do this. Like, I know you're supposed to be, how when people say you need to feel kind of like right when you feel like you shouldn't jump is when you should, right? it's kind of like that. But there's a point to that where it's like you don't want to be financially irresponsible with it. So looking at that, I talked to my mom and dad and some other supporters, and they sat me down and they said, choose 3 things and start with that and see where that goes. And that's all I've been doing so far, just 3 separate things. And then the best part is here now is I didn't think of it this way, was during that time when they said choose the 3 things, all those other ideas and ways of doing it are now for next year and the following year.
Keep
saying,
growing.
yeah, so you can say, I'm releasing this year. You can earn that money back, push it back into the company, and come out with a new bait.
Definitely. So, I mean, obviously, I remember, so we were talking, obviously, like, God, we've done the podcast together, know each other a little bit, but you're an education major.
Yep, correct.
And so how did you learn so much about the business side of this? Just by trial and error, just going through it? Or?
Yeah, that was a big thing where when people have asked me, when I first went to my first advising meeting, I remember my advisor going, did you do this right? And I was like, yeah, I did. I think. I hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my parents are both educators, kind of that, and then I've always wanted to do business, something in business, but I've also always wanted to be a teacher. And this allows me kind of the perk of it with teaching, the 3 months off in the summer and kind of the breaks in between throughout the year. And from there, I can keep on building that business to where I'm hoping that in the summertime, I can just continuously work on the business and keep on building up. And then throughout the year, sell. And then throughout the summer again, start building up again.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like getting to more of the fishing side of this now.
Yep.
So I'm assuming you've used your lures.
Oh, yep.
What is the biggest fish that you have caught with your lure?
I think the biggest one I've caught was 44 inches, and I think it was around 20-some pounds.
What kind of fish was it?
It was a pike, northern pike. Yeah.
Wow. And so what's like the biggest fish you've caught ever, or the coolest
That one right
that,
there. Yeah,
with So what? This is business right now. This lure will make you catch the biggest fish you've ever caught in your life.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So do you have any like statistics on how many you've sold, or have you kept track of that kind of stuff?
Yep. So a lot of it I do in spreadsheets. I keep kind of all the material cost and then my revenue if whatever I sell per jig, and then my breakdown of like my net cost, subtracting that and everything, finding profit, and then also working in my hourly time too with that. And I think throughout a lot of the finance classes too that I've kind of sort of been slowly taking, but kind of getting it, just learning more, I've been able to do it. Like even this year, I'm taking a finance class, and one of our assignments was literally figure out what your hourly wage is and put that into your business.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I already have that done. It's perfect. So like, and then you learn more from that too, because the professor always have more information to share with you. That's very helpful. So yeah.
I very like business oriented, education oriented. Like, do you think that this kind of side of your life, will you bring that into the classroom? Like, what's your
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how do you think you're gonna do that?
The biggest thing with the classroom is, so we always have to figure out a theme of our classroom, right? Okay. So I know my first year I'm hoping to do like a fishing theme and then kind of keep it an outdoorsy theme. And then maybe one year do like maybe a business theme or do just something relevant to that. So then if we do, let's say, small group activity, like one of them will be like team walleye, team northern cool. Pike, team panfish, or something like that. Just kind of keeping them, it gives them something to be like, oh, this is kind of cool. We're unique to this specific thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Obviously, you want to keep growing.
Yep.
We kind of talked about that earlier, trying to get into those bigger places. Have you thought about employees, or like how can people can you buy this online? Do you have any social media, anything like that? How did you approach that?
Yeah, so that was the biggest thing, was the online website. That 100% took me the longest time to make, and still I'm like, I can still improve on this, like just looking at it. And it's not bad. It's really not bad, but just it takes a long time doing that kind of stuff. And I didn't really notice that until I started doing it, where I had a website initial launch in March of last year, and then we had to push it to April. and then we finally released it in April, which was good. So now it's officially up now, and it works and everything. And just like the keeping up with Instagram too and Facebook, it's very, it can be very challenging at times, where balancing schoolwork and doing this while also doing something that I want to do. Like, I know tonight my brother's playing a football game, right? And it's kind of like doing, like, I want to do part of my business. I got to do my schoolwork, but I also want to go to this football game. But a lot of it is just at one point you need to kind of find a good balance. Like, maybe this week I can't go, but I know next Tuesday I'll be able to go for their playoff game. Yeah. If that makes sense at all.
No, absolutely. I feel like that's the biggest thing in just life. Like, yeah. And we got practice, we got whatever. I feel like that's just a big thing a lot of us can learn from, is how to balance that. And I feel like we're all living life for the first time. Yeah. You're starting your business. Like, it's all new, and you can't expect to be perfect. Yeah. Kind of leads in perfectly. I wanted to ask you, obviously, like, you kind of talked about struggles. Like, what has been the biggest, like, hardship you faced, and how did you get through it?
Yeah, I would say, you first put out your website and you go, oh man, these sales are going to be crazy. I'm going to have like 4 or 5 of like a week. Hopefully that was my goal. And then reality checks in and you go, oh, well, it's not like right now it's fine, because you have to stay consistent with it. Right. At first, you're not just going to all of a sudden be the top selling thing. You're not going to have all that kind of stuff, if that makes sense. But just kind of staying consistent with it. I know that was my biggest struggle at first, was staying consistent at first. And I really just kind of sat down and I was like, I need to build a plan on what to do, have certain due dates, and I need people to hold me accountable. I'd have times where George Taylor would text me and be like, hey, get this done. And I'd be like, okay, I will. Yeah. And then I release a video, or I release just a post about the jig, or if there's a sale going on, just kind of something like that. Just staying positive with it. It's so easy to be negative. And that's the thing too, is your brain only remembers, I'm not going to say only remembers, but it remembers the negative more than the positive. That's one thing we learned about in education. You give a student a negative experience, they're going to remember that forever. Like, there are times from elementary school where I go, man, that was kind of a negative experience. And even now I'm like, I don't really want to do something like that. Yeah. But being positive with yourself positive self-talk 100% would be the best way to battle that.
Yeah, I know. One thing my mom always says, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
Yep. She always tells me that, and I feel like that's so true in so many parts of life. And obviously, like, you want to be in all the big stores, you want to be like these big brands, but you got to like start where you are and just keep growing. Yeah, for sure. I guess expansion, have you thought you just want to make different types of lures? Do you want to get into rods? Yeah. Do you want to do like stand-up stuff? Like, what are you thinking there?
Yeah, funny story there. I do make my own fishing rods too. Okay. I'm not 100% on them yet. I've only been doing that for, I think, 4 years. So it's kind of something where I want to make sure, a lot of the thing that I want to make sure I have 5 years of kind of doing something before I feel really comfortable doing it. Because at first, when I first bought my first mold, I went, oh man, this is awesome. I'm going to sell these. And like the first ones that I ever made, oh, they were so bad. They were not good. And like, then I look at them now, like I compare them, and I kept one of them, and I was like, okay, well, we're going to compare it now. And you can just see the difference in either the paint, the hooks and stuff. You can just see the difference in the jigs. And yeah, so.
Yeah, I think it feels like that's obviously very rewarding for you. You can kind of see it in like your facial expressions, how you talk about it. What are you most proud of in your journey so far?
Yeah, I would have to say stepping out of my comfort zone. That was a big thing for me. In George Taylor's class, my first year, again, bringing that back in. I was in his class for I was in 3 classes throughout my second year. But yeah, I was so nervous. The first one, I was like, is this, like, will this professor, like, help me out with this? I was still, like, not fully comfortable yet. And I was like, should I go ask? And I went up and I asked, and he's like, walk with me. And I was like, okay, here we go. I'm like, we're serious now. And so, yeah, he sat me down, kind of walked through it and everything, and then started planning, and then kind of back to the whole thing with the website and in the planning again in the winter.
The next thing I think of here is just, like, what is your advice in general? Like, someone has an idea, obviously, like, you didn't know where to start. You had your mentor. You had a lot of things like that. Like, what are your biggest tips to just get started and get going with your dreams like this?
Yeah, I would definitely say, again, be consistent. Surround your people with who want to see you succeed with it. I've had friends, family, they help me out through it. I have an uncle that will try out my stuff. He loves it. Because he gets fishing stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sure about this. Can you please try it out? Because I don't know if I have time this week, or I don't know if I can do it with my college stuff. And he'll be like, yes, I'll do that gladly. And then he'll go fish and he'll kind of tell me what can do better with it. And I've had I didn't go to high school with them, but people from my high school who my dad taught. And when I was younger, I would tag along with the football team because I was just, my dad was one of the coaches, and I was like eight years old. And so one of those guys reached out to me because they also fish in all these, in these tournaments and stuff. And they have ideas on jig design now. So that's a whole nother thing, because right now the jigs that we're making are pre-made from another company. So they're unique by the way we can like paint them and change the coloring and everything, but the same style of head or the same style of hooks are being used, right?
Yeah.
And with this, we're looking at creating just a jig in general. We're making our own unique one. And that's also been a learning curve with bringing up another hardship with that, kind of figuring that out. It takes me a while doing kind of all the charts and stuff, figuring out what to do with that. But yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. But doing that and stepping out of your comfort zone again you'll learn. And I guarantee there are other people who will reach out along the way and be like, hey, I had this same experience. Maybe try it this way. Because I think the biggest thing is the people don't understand is people want to help you, and they go, yeah, they're your competitor. Yes, they are, but they're not out to be like, I'm gonna put you on the street and you're never gonna sell another one. They're not gonna do that. They really want to help. A lot of the people who talk, a lot of the big companies even who are battling head to head all the time, they're friends. They're all friends, just out of work doing it, and they exchange ideas and they go, well, maybe this didn't work. Have you tried this way? And then they do that. So
yeah, I think just like what I get from that is just like trusting yourself.
Yeah,
trusting
absolutely.
that process. Like, you don't have to do it alone. That doesn't take away from your success if you get a little help here and there, for sure. I guess another thing I've been wondering as you've been talking is, you said you got school.
Yep.
You got a family.
Yep.
You are gonna be a teacher. You gotta do clinicals. You gotta do all this stuff. What does your day-to-day look like right now? Like, do you set aside time to work on this, or is it kind of on the back burner right now? How does that work for you for the seasons? Yeah. So in the fall is kind of a downtime. It's kind of going down, because in the winter months we don't have open water unless I start selling down south, and I get people down there who are they fish open water all year, and so we kind of switch over, and then to the ice rods again, kind of like ice fishing. I make my own ice rods, but I just don't sell them yet. If I do sell them, it'll be like to a close family or a friend or something like that, just to do something on the side with that. But I know and then towards the end of winter is when it really starts ramping up again. Spring fishing's coming up. There are states that don't have a season. So Minnesota, we have a season. I want to say it's the second Saturday in May. Yeah, they're pretty strict on fishing licenses too.
Yep. And then over in South Dakota, you can just fish all year. So it's kind of, you also got to think about that too, where towards the beginning, like January, February, I've had people ask, well, why are you doing this? And it's like, well, we have states around us that don't ever close that mainly fish for these types of fish, and they might be interested, or just kind of giving that opportunity too. Because the last thing I want is for someone to put an order in. Oops, sorry. I want the last thing. I don't want people to put an order in and have it not be done. My goal is to get it done, turn around day. Like I want the order to come in. I'll get a notification on my phone.
Okay.
I will pack all the stuff up and then kind of do that. And with the day-to-day stuff, I do set a time for it. It's normally at night when I'm kind of relaxing, but at the same time, it's not like a strict thing where I need to be like, you need to make sure you need to do this, this, and this, which I still have things that I need to get done, but it's not as intense as like this spring would be.
What's your biggest motivator to keep going in those times when it's like, oh, I set aside this time, I'm tired?
Yeah.
Like what is the main thing that really keeps you going with this?
Yeah, my biggest thing is just showing students in the classroom even, or just people in general, that you can really do what you want. You can do this. People have asked me, well, would you stop teaching if this business all of a sudden, let's say you're the next like biggest company, right? Would you quit teaching? And I was like, no, I couldn't do it. I won't quit teaching. It's something that's really important to me, and I want to be able to, and the biggest thing is showing those kids that whatever they put their mind to, they can do. You want to show them that they can be successful, and keeping those kind of tendencies and not pushing, but kind of showing the students like, oh, I didn't know you did that, or I didn't know you could do it this way, kind of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what keeps me motivated with that, just being able to show the students, just people in general, that really you can do what you want if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah. I feel like that's just like so inspiring, because we like teachers, they build so much of who we are.
Yep.
Especially, you said 6th grade, right?
Yep.
6th grade was the ideal grade for you.
Yep.
And I feel like that's just such a big time, and I think that is something like, go home. Yeah, mom, my teacher, he has his own business. Like,
Yep.
I think I should do something. Like, I feel like that's just super cool and obviously very rewarding. And
Yeah.
obviously you care deeply about both things. They're very connected, and I feel like that's just something a lot of us can learn about.
Yeah, and it's very nice because it's kind of like I get to do both things that I love doing, right? And it doesn't necessarily conflict with one another, because in the summertime, I can go fishing.
It's kind of perfect.
I can do all the fishing stuff. During the fall, winter, spring, I get to focus on the students and make sure they're learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess like we're kind of winding down. Just tell us, have you planned like the next 5 to 10 years, or are you just kind of taking it, get my degree, do this? Like, is that how you're doing it, or what's the vibe there?
Really, this year I'm hoping to go get to another retail store that's kind of more well known in the northern region of Minnesota. They're a based Minnesota company, and they're not as small as like a mom and pop shop, but they're big enough to be kind of a competitor with an outdoor retail. So I'm kind of hoping to reach out to them and kind of form from there. And then as we continue to grow and build up stock and all that, keep on going up, kind of get to the Runnings, the maybe even Shields, kind of like the bigger retail places. So
yeah, and then obviously getting teaching. Where are you looking to teach?
I wanted to teach in Grand Rapids, so kind of up north Minnesota. But I think my first year I'm hopefully going to be staying down here in the area, and then maybe working my way up there. I know New London Spicer's been something that I've really been wanting to do, or Richmond or New Richmond, Cold Springs, kind of in that area. But yeah, that's
just
hopefully
seeing where it takes you. Yeah, for sure. So is there anything, I mean, we've obviously learned a lot today, entrepreneurship. You just have such a great story. Anything you kind of want to leave our viewers with today?
Yeah, definitely put time towards it. If you really care about it and it's something you really want to do, make sure you're putting dedicated time to it. And I know it can be hard. There are times where I look at it and I go, I really don't want to do this. And like I was making jigs, and like I made over 120 jigs from I think Sunday to Tuesday. And I just looked and man, I really don't want to do this. And then at the same time, I put in a movie or put in a show, and then you just do that, have it in the background, and you just do whatever. You jam to music, do whatever. But yeah, definitely set a specific time for it that will work with kind of everything. Kind of write out your planner, what's going on, and where you can put that time. Just maybe even an hour, half hour a day.
Yeah.
And then as you keep on growing it and you get more serious, like with the business plan and stuff and doing all that, dedicate more time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like would definitely make a great stocking stuffer.
Yeah,
don't you think? Christmas is coming up. Definitely
Absolutely.
buy your lures from this man. Definitely a great story. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
What's one habit or daily practice that keeps your growth mindset a priority?
Well, I was always told that if you make your bed every morning, you will be a part of a group that is 90% successful.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge stat. I mean, if you go in and there's this weird thing, you talk to people that are very successful, you'll find out that they make their bed in the morning. Well, I wasn't always a guy that made my bed in the morning. But the one thing that I've discovered is, and I don't have a bed that's necessarily all these sheets and blankets. I just have a cover. But I fold it every morning.